Hello, I'm Christine Haynes. I'm a pattern maker, sewing teacher, and author in Los Angeles, California. Today I'm going to show you how to cut and assemble a PDF pattern. I'm going to be using my new pattern, the Sylvie dress, to demonstrate. But this applies to any PDF pattern from any pattern company. When you receive your pattern, you're going to get it as a PDF pattern. So it's going to be a little bit different than if you were going to get a pattern that's already printed on tissue. So there are a few tips and tricks that are really important to make sure that it's printed and taped together correctly. First thing you want to do is find the first page of the PDF pattern itself. There's going to be two files, one for the instructions that we already talked about. This is just for the pattern itself. The first page is going to have this test square on it. This is the first page you want to print. You don't want to print all the pages. It's about 40 pages for the pattern. You just want to start with this page. I recommend opening up your PDF pattern in a file like Adobe Acrobat or a reader if you're on a Mac. Something that's like a PDF reader, but also something that has the control for how it is printed in the outcome. So what's really important is that this is printed at 100% scale. You don't want to scale it to fit. That's going to be a really common checked button. In fact, I think most of the time it's automatically checked when you open up a file. So you want to make sure that scale to fit is not checked and that it's scaling and printing at 100%. This is what's going to come out. You're going to have this dashed line, and it's sized so that it fits either an A4 or a letter size paper, so anyone in the world can use it. And we're going to have this 4-inch test square. We're going to print this at 100%, and then we're going to take it and we're going to take a ruler and we're going to confirm that this is actually 4 inches square. Once you know that it is, that means when you print the remaining 39 pages, you know it's printed the right scale. If this is too big or too small, that means everything is going to be too big or too small. So if you think you're cutting out a size 10, but it's been scaled to be too small, it's not going to be the right size in the end. So this is a really, really important first step. Once we know that this is the right size, you can go ahead and print all the rest of your pages. What you're going to end up with is a whole booklet of pages. So this is the entire pattern, and it's, like I said, about 40 pages long. You're essentially recreating the tissue that you would buy if you had bought the printed version. So if you've used a big pattern sheet before, you're basically recreating this by taping all of the pages together yourself. There are pros and cons to working with a PDF pattern. One of the most I think one of the best pros about it is that, let's say you want to make it for a friend or you change sizes, you can just print a new one. Or if you lose it, it's easy to lose a tissue paper pattern, but this you're never going to lose. You can just print it again and again for yourself. So once we have our test square printed out, we want to actually trim around these edges so that we can tape all of these pages together. The way that I like to do it is to actually just trim the right and bottom edges of the paper. So there are a couple ways that you can trim and tape it together. You can use some sort of paper trimmer, which a lot of people like. This is a little blade and lifts up, and you just put your pages in and trim them off. You can, of course, use your paper scissors, which is an easy way to go. Or if you're really into your rotary cutter, you can use that as well. I'm going to demonstrate just with my scissors. And we're going to cut the right and the bottom edges off of this sheet. The advantage of just trimming the right and the bottom is that it will overlap with the left and the top of the corresponding pages on the other side. So all we have to do is trim the right and the bottom. At that point, the numbers are going to line up. So here's that same test square, and it's now taped to the next page. You can see that the 1 lines up and that the pattern markings are starting to line up. This one doesn't actually overlap much, but what we're about to do is make that happen. So because I've trimmed the right and the bottom of the second page, I can overlap it with the left of the next page. So I'm simply going to line up that number 2 as well as the pattern markings. I want to, again, make sure that I'm not overlapping too much or too little, or the pattern pieces are not going to be the right size in the end. I'm going to just tape the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to tape in between, focusing mostly on where it needs to be taped based on the pattern piece itself. So now you can see that the first 4 pages are all taped together. I'm going to tape the next 4 pages together just in the same way, and those 4 will attach to the bottom of this group where the numbers and the pattern pieces line up. Eventually you'll have a huge sheet that's going to look very much like this big tissue paper, but made out of your printer paper. And of course at that point we'll measure our body and cut out our size and make sure that we've cut the right amount, or you can trace off on tracing paper if you'd prefer. After you've done all this hard work, maybe you don't want to ever do that again, so then you can trace this off on tracing paper and work from that so that this remains intact forever. To sew the Sylvie dress along with me, check out my class on CreativeLive.